General Hospital spoilers, Michael in the hot seat and Britt desperate. Port Charles has never been kind to people caught between truth and loyalty, and on this day, the town seemed determined to turn up the heat. Two lives moved on parallel tracks, one under harsh scrutiny, the other spiraling toward desperation, and both racing toward choices that could change everything. Michael felt it the moment he walked into the room. The air was different. Conversations paused. Eyes followed him longer than necessary. It wasn't outright hostility, but it was worse, expectation. He had stepped into the hot seat whether he liked it or not, and everyone seemed to believe he owed them answers. Questions came fast and sharp. Decisions he'd made in the past were suddenly being revisited, re-examined under an unforgiving light. Every move Michael made was interpreted as strategy, every silence as guilt. He kept his composure, but beneath the calm exterior, his thoughts raced. The truth was complicated, layered with good intentions and bad outcomes, and explaining it wouldn't make it any simpler. What made the pressure unbearable was knowing that someone else's fate might hinge on what he said next. Michael wasn't just defending himself, he was protecting people he cared about. But the more he tried to stay measured, the more it looked like he was hiding something. In Port Charles, restraint is often mistaken for deception, and Michael could feel control slipping from his grasp. Across town, Britt was unraveling. Desperation has a way of narrowing the world, reducing every choice to survival. Britt paced the room, phone clutched tightly in her hand, waiting for a call that never came. Time wasn't on her side, and she knew it. Whatever solution she'd been counting on was fading fast, leaving her backed into a corner with no clear way out. Fear sharpened her thoughts, pushing her toward decisions she might normally avoid. Britt had always prided herself on her strength, her ability to stay one step ahead, but now even she couldn't deny the cracks forming beneath her confidence. She needed help, but asking for it meant exposing vulnerabilities she'd spent years hiding. The contrast between Michael's public pressure and Britt's private panic couldn't have been sharper. One faced judgment in plain sight, the other wrestled with terror alone. Yet their stories were closer than either realized, tied together by secrets that refused to stay buried. Back in the hot seat, Michael faced a pivotal moment. A single question hung in the air, heavy with implication. The room waited. Michael knew the answer could shift alliances, spark retaliation, and set off a chain reaction he wouldn't be able to stop. He chose his words carefully, offering just enough truth to satisfy the moment without revealing too much. It worked, but only barely. Skepticism lingered. Some were convinced they hadn't heard the full story. Others sensed that Michael was carrying a burden he hadn't yet admitted aloud. The uncertainty only fueled the fire, guaranteeing that the pressure wouldn't let up anytime soon. Meanwhile, Britt made a risky decision. With options dwindling, she reached out to someone she'd sworn she'd never trust again. It wasn't forgiveness that motivated her, it was necessity. Pride became a luxury she could no longer afford. The call was brief, tense, and emotionally charged, but it gave her something she hadn't had in days: hope. Still, hope in Port Charles is a double-edged sword. Britt knew that accepting help would come with strings attached, favors would be expected, boundaries would blur, but desperation leaves little room for principles, and Britt was well past the point of waiting for a miracle. As night fell, the consequences of both storylines began to ripple outward. Michael sensed that the spotlight wasn't moving away, it was tightening. Every decision he made from here on out would be scrutinized, every alliance tested. The hot seat wasn't just uncomfortable, it was dangerous. Britt, on the other hand, stared at her reflection, barely recognizing the woman looking back. The mask she'd worn for so long was slipping, revealing fear, resolve, and a willingness to do whatever it took to survive what was coming next. Port Charles thrives on moments like these, when people are pushed to their limits and forced to reveal who they truly are. Whether under interrogation or driven by desperation, both Michael and Britt were standing at the edge of transformation. And in this town, once you're pushed to the edge, there's no going back.